Funerals are typically the final chapter in life. They are meant to give a sense of closure. But for some, burials are merely opportunities to turn a profit. One of these people arrives in the hamlet. Her name is Audrey, and though she was once a well-born aristocrat, she has since fallen so low as to steal from the dead, befitting her title as the grave robber. Prior to her current occupation, Audrey was once the lady of the house. She married her rich husband, and the two were members in the upper crust of society, with enough money to spend their days enjoying life, employing servants to handle the menial tasks while they spent their time on luxury, attending balls, hosting parties, and drinking the finest liquors. They even had a pet cat, who has long since passed, but she could be carrying the paw as one of her trinkets. At some point, tragedy struck, with the death of her husband. While it could have been an accident, I have my doubts, and I will get to in a moment. For now, let's focus on the aftermath. After his death, she would inherit the wealth, if there was any. It turns out that all the money he supposedly had was a lie. He was broke. He had spent his money on material things, leaving them with nothing but debt, which by law, Audrey would inherit. Financially ruined, she would be forced to sell what possessions she had left, and still it wasn't enough. As she paced around the empty halls of her manor, drinking her sorrows away, she came upon the painting of her and her late husband. Enraged by the sight of the man, she threw her glass against the painting. Crying softly, she started looking out the window, into the graveyard where he had been buried, which was when an idea began creeping into her mind. He had been buried with his rings, and those jewels could fetch a nice price on the market. He wouldn't need them in the afterlife anyway. They were just sitting there, gathering dust. So she let her hair down as a devious smile formed on her lips. The implications being that she robbed the grave of her late husband. I want to turn back to the husband's death for a moment, since my theory is that she may have had a hand in his untimely demise. Based on her dialogue, she mentions how she is only in the current situation because of something she did. Maybe she only married him for his money, then killed him and found out it was all a lie. Or perhaps she murdered him out of rage, since when we take a closer look at the painting, we see that he is smiling, but she isn't, which could indicate that their marriage was an unhappy one. After she murdered him, then she learned about the debt. One final insult from her late husband. If she did commit murder, how is still up for debate. One option being that she poisoned him, as she boasts a knowledge of various poisons. Or maybe it was more violent, since one of her Crimson Court trinkets is a sharpened letter opener. Then the question becomes, how was she able to get away with it? To that, I don't really have an answer, aside from a few well-placed bribes to have the coroner overlook the signs of poison or trauma. The significance of this event is that it awoke something in her. Plundering the valuables from the dead in the darkness of night gave her a rush like she hadn't felt before. So she abandoned her previous life as a lady and took up grave robbing. According to her dialogue, she has robbed hundreds of graveyards, which, while impressive, would attract the attention of the authorities. She may have even been caught, placed on trial, found guilty, and sentenced to either beheading or hanging. She opted for the latter and was sent to the gallows. Maybe she was able to escape before her execution, or maybe she was able to fake her death somehow, since she has quotes mentioning that she was left for dead by society. Interesting side note, the two classes who have been imprisoned or faced execution, highwayman and grave robber, share the same camp skill, gallows humor. After her escape, or her supposed death, she was free to continue her exploits, which include stealing everything that isn't nailed to the floor and making as much money as possible. This would bring her to the estate. And what is the estate if not a massive graveyard, waiting to be plundered by those brave or foolish enough to venture in? But she had best be careful, for the dead around here have a tendency to reanimate, and they don't like trespassers. In combat, she's an agile fighter, preferring to be quick and relying on her dexterity for protection, slipping away into the shadows only to lunge forward with a deadly strike. If her targets are far away, she'll use her throwing knives, or she could use her poison darts to slowly chip away at their health. And when she needs to get up close and personal, she will bust out her pickaxe to pierce the armor of her target. It's a shame, really. Audrey was once a promising young woman, full of grace and beauty. She didn't deserve what became of her. She tried to stay on the right side of the law, but was forced into a life of crime. However, depending on who you ask, some would say the real criminals are on the side of the law. Ask the former lawman, who is making quite a name for himself in the hamlet. A man of true honor. With his faithful hound, they enact their own brand of vigilante justice